Lincoln Riley's got a responsibility, and that's to be able to protect his quarterback. But I like the fact that he went back and also talked to a lot of people that were in the room. He just didn't say, oh, my experience with Kyler. He was like, no, I talked to NFL personnel, and what they told me about the meetings is totally different than what someone is reporting. So I'm glad he did his homework. And this one thing that we should know about Lincoln Riley. The NFL is in love with Lincoln Riley, not just by how he's changed Oklahoma in their program, the offense that they run. The difference between him and Cliff Kingsbury is his offenses have more balance. They have better pass protection. So they think that his offense, and based on what Baker Mayfield did last year, they believe that his system will survive in pro football. So I like Lincoln Riley as a football coach. I'm glad he stood up for his guy yesterday.
And listen, the head coach is almost always going to stand up for their player going to the draft. It's very rare you have the Pete Carroll at USC saying, I think Mark Sanchez should stay. Like, usually guys are going to defend their player. And I thought that Kyler might interview poorly because I had seen him do other interviews. But I'm so frustrated and honestly just sick and tired of this obvious double standard when it comes to quarterbacks' intelligence. See, you talked about how long you've been around pro football, 30 years. I've been following the league, I would say, closely for the better part of 15. I can think of one white quarterback who, as part of his draft evaluation, there was a question, how smart is he? That was Johnny Manziel. And it was Johnny Manziel had enormous off-the-field question marks, was dealing with addiction issues, and so he got tarred with that. I can think of a half dozen black quarterbacks the last 5 years. Seems like 1 in every 3 black quarterbacks. One of the questions is he smart enough? And it is impossible for me to believe there haven't been dumb white quarterbacks. But it is just assumed going into the draft. Now, sometimes when guys fail, after their career, we hear we couldn't pick up the offense. You sometimes hear it post-draft. But going into the draft, this is a criticism reserved exclusively for the black quarterbacks. Now, not all of them.
No, because Dwayne Haskins
not going to deal with it. And so I'm not saying that all black quarterbacks people are question their intelligence. But the only quarterbacks who people question their intelligence seem to be black quarterbacks. We got to go back 45 years to find people saying this about Terry Bradshaw. It is an obvious double standard, and it's one of the reasons why Casserly's comments, they irked me, because it's one thing to go with an anonymous report of a fact, right?
Right.
So a source told me that this team is trying to trade for Antonio Brown. That's an anonymous sourced fact, right? It's another thing to go with an anonymously sourced opinion. An anonymous source told me this is his opinion on this guy's acumen.
Right.
That bothers me, and every year we know this is going to happen.
How much do general managers, or when teams are looking at the draft and drafting guys, how much stock do they place in comments like this? I mean, will this actually drop Kyler Murray down notches on teams' draft boards?
Well, you have to realize, too, that I've been doing this for a long time. And when we start what we call the lying season, and that is after the college bowl games are over, regardless of what these guys have accomplished, what you start to see around the league through NFL personnel, agents, all you see is lies after lies after lies. So, no, I don't think this is going to drop them. But Charlie Casserly is a very respectable name in the industry. Are there teams out there that have gone to Charlie through the years to get an opinion on players? Yes. But this goes on every year. And the thing about it, Charlie or no one else, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, anyone, none of them are experts. If Mel Kiper was an expert, he'd be running an NFL team. He wouldn't have no scouting service. He'd have his own team. If I can pick the players better than anyone else, but now I got more respect than Mel, and Mel's the best at doing it, but, man, there is no science to this.
Science, if it's a science at all. Exactly.
But my thing is, you have to realize that when you get in these windows of 4 months where these guys are training, you're going to hear a lot of negative things on and off the field about these players. That's how they mark them down, and that's how they decide not to be able to pay them. But the black quarterback is under a different set of scrutiny. I didn't have a problem with what Charlie Casserly said. I had a problem with how aggressive he was. And if you're going to be that aggressive, you need to be able to back it up with some type of team or some other. You can't have an anonymous source when you put a ding on a guy and you say, I've never heard an interview that went worse.
Board work worse than awful. That means the guy doesn't understand football.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying...
Contradicted by what Lincoln Riley said.
Well, and I'm not even saying necessarily, maybe this was the worst interview ever, and maybe it was the worst board work ever, but it is just, it's amazing to me that last year, who was the quarterback who they questioned his intelligence?
Lamar.
Oh, it was Lamar. This year, it's kind of like, we have gotten so much better, obviously, than when Warren Moon had to go to Canada to play football 35 years ago. I get it. But it doesn't mean we're evaluating guys by the same standard. And I feel like teams go into these interviews with the assumption, okay, white quarterback, potentially first-round pick, he must be sharp. And for the black quarterback, well, maybe he's a great athlete, but I got to figure out if
I would say, Nick, I got to push back on that because I think NFL teams have gone far beyond that. And if you look at the number of African Americans we have playing in the playoffs, the number of African Americans we have making big-time money. Now, are there stereotypes? Yes. Is the standard different? Yes. But what you're saying, I know that can't be true. I know it can't be true because guys are getting more and more opportunities every single year. That doesn't mean there's a few out there. But if you look at the influx of college football on the NFL, we got 22 offensive-minded coaches coaching on the 32 teams, a lot of them coming from college. And in college, man, they don't care who he is. They don't care what color he is. Can he run? Can he throw? Right. And a lot of that is over in the NFL now. So I have to get some pushback as far as that being that strong comment there.
It is certainly, we are far better than we've ever been, and the numbers back it up. When you look at the number of black quarterbacks starting, not just in the playoffs, but across the league, it is triple what it was just 15 years ago when you could list number of black quarterbacks on one hand. It feels like this process, once they get drafted, it feels like this goes away. I don't hear a lot about how sharp is the guy. It's these 4 months where this is the question mark associated with these quarterbacks more than anybody else.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.